Artistry 3's Powder Paint creates a unique effect on your images, transforming them into an oil-like painting with a powdery soft effect on both the subject and around the edges of your subject. We've also included the ability to change various elements in the final image, including the background canvas color, the border visibility, width, and color, and several other elements that create this full effect. This effect will run automatically, producing a beautiful result with our default settings. No further customization is necessary, but for our Photoshop artist friends who love pushing their artwork even further, we leave all layers unflattened, and I'm going to demonstrate the function of each layer in the final result. So our first step is to select the action, Powder Paint, from the Actions panel. And when you open the toggle here, you'll see there's 2 steps to the action. Click on Step 1, select Focus, and click Play at the bottom of the Actions panel. The pop-up dialog now tells us to paint over the main subject areas of our image with either a soft or a hard brush, and that our painted area can be a loose or rough selection of our main subject. So let's click Stop and do this now. Now, there are a number of ways to accomplish this. The simplest way is to use the brush, which is automatically selected for you by default, and simply paint over the subject, making sure to be as accurate as possible. But one very important note, your brush tool and opacity and flow must both be set to 100% or the action will stop with several pop-up errors. You can verify or set your brush opacity and flow in the top toolbar here while your brush tool is active. You'll also notice that you're painting on the main focus area layer, which allows you to use the eraser tool to erase your brushing if you make any mistakes. If necessary, you can increase or decrease the size of the brush using the square bracket keys. For this effect, there's no need to make a precise selection of your main subject, as the action is going to automatically and randomly reshape and widen your selected area to give you a more authentic painting effect on the final piece of artwork. However, I would recommend to avoid painting right down to the bottom edge of the image, as you will just get a nicer result if you can kind of taper the selection towards the bottom. Okay, so with our main focus area painted here, we can now click on Step 2, Powder Paint, and click Play at the bottom of the Actions panel. You'll notice we've added in parentheses here 4,000 plus pixels. Now this is just a suggestion and a reminder. This action will work on images where the long edge of the image is less than 4,000 pixels, but the final effect will be more pronounced than what we consider to be the most ideal effect. So when possible, try to use or resize your starting image to a minimum of 4,000 pixels along the long edge of the image for optimal results. Now, depending on the speed and configuration of your computer, this action may take a few minutes to complete. Okay, the action is complete here, and this dialog tells us that we can make custom adjustments if we would like to. So close this dialog box and let's have a look at what more we can do. And let's also close the Actions panel out of the way. We don't need that anymore. And maybe also just zoom out a tad so we can see the full image here. So firstly, I'm really happy with the default results here. The painting effect looks great, and I love how the action automatically created this powdery brush effect around the edges of my subject selection that I made previously. So depending on which version of Photoshop you're using, your layer palette may be collapsed like mine is here in Photoshop CC, or these layer group folders might be left open and expanded, as is often the case in earlier versions of Photoshop, such as CS6. The first thing we can do is make everything a little bit more tidy here in the Layers palette by holding down the Option and Command keys on a Mac, or the Alt and Control keys on a PC, while clicking on the toggle icon for the top layer group. This will close all layer groups and just make your layers palette a little bit easier to navigate. Okay, great. So let's have a look at what else we can do to optionally customize this effect. I'll start at the top and work my way down the layers here. So the first is our border. Now you can change the appearance of this border in a number of ways. The first is to toggle the layer visibility on and off to see if your image works better with or without the border. And if you like the border and want to customize it further, Double-click the border layer in the Layers palette, and the Layer Style dialog box opens. So here, we can adjust the opacity if necessary, but you'll also see the Stroke Layer Style box is checked. So if we click on the Stroke Layer Style like this, we can adjust the size or thickness here, and we can also adjust the color of the border by clicking on this color swatch, and either selecting a color using the color picker, or you can hover your mouse over your image and you'll see the mouse change to an eyedropper where you can click and use a color from your image as the color for your border. So this will give you a more consistent sort of feel. And once you find a color you like, click OK, and then OK to close the Layer Style dialog. And if you like, you can also reshape the border with the Transform tool by clicking Command T on a Mac or Control T on a PC. And then you can drag the border handles to reshape it further if necessary. And that's how we control the border. So now let's see what we can do with our main subject. So click on the toggle icon for the main subject group, and you'll see there are 3 layers inside here. The top layer lends sort of a painterly feel to the image by playing with a tonal contrast in the image. You can see the effect when I toggle this layer visibility on and off. Now you can increase or reduce this effect of this layer in 2 ways. The first would be to simply adjust the layer opacity by moving the slider back and forth here. However, if you click this little drop-down icon on the right side of the painterly opacity layer, you'll see we have a high-pass smart filter. We've set this at an amount that will work well for headshot portraits, but if you have another type of photograph, you can double-click the high-pass smart filter and play with the radius slider to produce different effects. So be sure that your preview checkbox is turned on so that you can see the effects in real time as you move this slider. And when you find one that you like, here we go, click OK. And also, if you would like to soften this effect, you can double-click on the Gaussian Blur Smart Filter and adjust the radius to soften the spread of the dark and light areas. And click OK to accept those changes. Good. And again, you can adjust the opacity of this layer as necessary. So this layer really plays with the way that light interacts with the subject. And as you can see, it lends a painterly quality to the subject here. Now the next layer is our actual subject layer with a slight painted art conversion effect to give it more of an oil painting type of feel. Now this will be more obvious in this example if I just zoom in a bit. So let's go up to, let's say 50% here. Okay, and now if I toggle the layer visibility for this layer on and off, you'll see it removes the painted effect to reveal the original subject when I turn the visibility off. So you can keep this layer on at 100% opacity, or you can drop the opacity down to your liking to reveal the original image layer underneath here. Now I happen to like it at 100% because I specifically wanted this effect to be more soft, but you can adjust it to your liking. So we'll close the toggle on the layer group, and let's look at the next layer group, the colored powder layers, where we can do some really interesting things. And actually, I'm going to zoom back out here to 25% here so we can see more of a full view. Okay. So inside this group, we have 3 powder layers. Each of these layers have been pre-colored with default colors, but of course, we can change that anytime. So I'll double click on the powder layer 1 to bring up the layer styles dialog. And if I click on color overlay, here's where we can adjust this powder coloring. So click on the swatch and select any color from the color picker. Or you can hover over your image and pick up any one of those tones from the image itself, which will usually create a better feeling in the overall final result. So I'm going to pick a color from around the bottom of the eyes here, like this. Okay, and when you find a color you like, click OK to close the color picker, and then OK to close the layer style dialog. And now we can do the same thing for the other 2 powder layers. So let's do powder layer 2, color overlay, and choose another color from inside our image here. And great, okay. Click OK, And OK again. And let's do the final layer here. Okay, super. So this is looking pretty good, but let's toggle this layer group closed and toggle the background color group open. And just double click on the actual color swatch on this layer right here. And let's do something really dramatic with the background canvas color. Let's go with the complete opposite, black. And click OK. Okay, now that looks really cool, except my border is blending in right now. So I can double click the border layer again. Click on stroke. Click the color swatch. And now let's choose one of the lighter tones from his skin here. And click OK. And OK. And there we go. So you can see by playing with these layers in just a matter of minutes, you can create a completely different look from the original effect quite quickly and very easily. And that is powder paint. I hope you have a lot of fun using this action on your images and even playing with the final result to customize the effect further to your liking. These powder paint conversions are going to work great for both amateur and professional photographers, especially in the wedding, newborn, children, and sporting event artwork. So thank you very much again for choosing Artistry Actions by PhotographyBB. If you have any questions, I am always happy to help. You can reach me anytime at actions@photographybb.com. Thank you again and happy photoshopping.